Torrance Airport Reservation Hotel, time 1858, Zulu, wind 270 visibility 10, sea clouds at 1,100, temperature 24, dew point 16, altimeter 298.5. ILS approach runway 29 right to use, landing and departing runway 29. Notice air emissions. TFR is in effect starting at 1 p.m. today. Contact flight service for more information. Runway 29 left fast is out of service. 5G nodes are in effect in the vicinity of Torrance and multiple cranes in the vicinity of Torrance. Torrance tower frequencies are split. North tower frequency 133.07. South tower frequency 124.0. Use caution bird activity on Vicinity Airport. As with weather base for California Coast Squad's available flight service frequencies. Rate back all runways. Thomas, hold short instructions with the call sign. Advise on contact. You have hotel.
All right. We have hotel.
Torrance Airport Reservation.
Welcome aboard, everyone, on another flight. Oh, let me wait for them. There we go. We are headed up the California desert. Nice and hot out today. Summer is coming on. And we're going towards Death Valley. Death Valley. What was it, November?
Cranes in the vicinity of Torrance. Torrance tower frequencies are split. North tower frequency 133.07. South tower frequency 124.0. Use caution bird activity on Vicinity Airport. As with weather base for California Coast Squad's available flight service frequencies. Rate back all runways. Thomas, hold short instructions with the call sign. Advise on contact. You have hotel.
Hotel.
Thank you.
Torrance ground, good afternoon. Station Air 1215 Golf. East Tees, ready to taxi with hotel.
Station Air 1215 Golf, afternoon, Torrance ground, 29 right, taxi via Juliet.
29 right, taxi via Juliet, 1215 Golf. All right. So we're headed up the desert. Clear left, clear right. Here comes the run-up. There's a heck ton of TFRs starting this afternoon, as you heard on the ATIS at 1 p.m. The President of the United States is flying in to LAX. So it's currently 12:23 p.m., so I'm looking to avoid the madness by just about 30 minutes. All right, here we are. Here we go. There, 1800.
Ground 461 to Quebec is clear of the left on Foxtrot taxi to the East Tees.
Electrical looks good. It's charging.
10 Quebec was a Torrance ground taxi Alpha East Tees.
And 17, 40, 50. That's a drop of 110. Back to both. 1860. 1780, that's a drop of 80-70, that's a drop of 90. Back to both within 175-50 of each other. Pitot heat coming back off, electrical system looks good, no annunciations. Right there at 18, I'm going to cycle the prop, and I'm looking for oil pressure, RPM, and manifold pressure, and they all did what I want them to do. I don't see any indications of visible oil on the windshield and so forth, and we'll go idle check. There we are, back to 1,000. We'll leave the mixture here. All right, on today's flight, I'll do a normal takeoff off of runway 29 right. Any abnormalities prior to rotation, I'll abort the, cut the power, stop straight ahead, taxi up the runway. Anything after rotation with runway ahead of me to land back on, I'll cut the power and land straight ahead. And if there's no runway ahead of me to land back on, I'll avoid making sharp turns unless I absolutely can make it back to the airport and land somewhere straight ahead with the least amount of damage I could possibly cause. Otherwise, everything looks good. All the safety items check in the pre-flight. Everything is perfect. 29085, I got 2855 for LA Special Flight Rules, 4,500 feet. I got my flight plan right up here, and I'm squawking 1201, so we're good to go. I'll be switching to tower right there, 133075 Torrance Tower, and we'll make it happen. Torrance Tower, good afternoon, Station Air 1215 Golf, short of 29 right, ready for takeoff right now in departure.
Station Air 1215 Golf, Torrance Tower, good afternoon.
796 Whiskey, Torrance ground.
I think he said stand by.
3965 Lima Bravo, are you full stop or are you going to be staying in the pattern?
I'm going to stay in the pattern for a couple more times around. Touch and goes if possible.
Roger. Fling 5 Sierra Lima, turn left to Charlie, contact ground.
Left Charlie, contact ground, 5 Sierra Lima.
Clean them sunglasses. I hope you guys are having a good day, wherever you're watching this from. I had a good day. I just ended a session. I ended a 2-day session with a client who flew in from Belgium to fly together. We spent 2 days of good training all over Southern
Fling 5 Lima Bravo,
California.
base turn approved, runway 29 right, clear touch and go.
5 Lima Bravo, base turn approved, clear for touchdown, 29 right.
Clear for touchdown. All right. There we are.
Torrance Tower, experimental swing 135 Whiskey Tango is 4 miles to the east of the field, inbound, full stop with Information Hotel.
Swing 135 Whiskey Tango, Torrance Tower, enter right base, your number 2, following a swing 2 mile final, runway 29 right, clear to land.
Number 2, 29 right, clear to land, 5 Whiskey Tango.
Yeah, so we flew, we spent 2 days.
1215 Golf, there's a helicopter departing during closed traffic. Your right down one is approved. Runway 29 right, clear for takeoff.
29 right, clear for takeoff, 1215 Golf. All right, here we go. Fuel selector both, cow flaps open,
Torrance
trips both
Tower,
set for takeoff.
Swing 864 Sierra Lima, inbound for touch
Final
and go,
looks clear.
29 right with hotel.
Lights are on, flaps are 10, and all looks good. Here we go. That's a power.
Torrance Tower, proceed to Thomas Bridge,
Here
mix
comes
straight in
the
from
mixture.
right, report over the bridge.
Report over the bridge, straight into 9
Nice
right
and
for Sierra
smooth.
Lima.
Swing 5 Whiskey Tango,
There's
traffic you're
takeoff
following is
power
traffic
set.
1 mile final.
5 Whiskey Tango.
And we're off, just like that.
And down with C7 Papa.
Above 75 miles of rate of climb, go the flaps. And fishing for 34 gallons an hour on the fuel.
C7 Papa, come on, switch to the north pad.
37 Papa, affirmative. You can enter right base to the north pad, clear to land, remain north of runways.
Remain north of runways and clears for the right turn and landing north side, C7 Papa.
All right, we're off. There's 34, 39, 34, 25. Solid. We'll even offset here a little bit. All right, cow flaps open, fuel selector both. Flaps are up. Looking at 34 gallons an hour on the fuel flow. And here we go, right down one. Got that plane in sight, and we should be over the layer here. There's a nice layer, the marine layer. And good. Glad we made it out before the TFR madness has begun. And it looks like we're over the clouds as we speak. It burnt off nice and quick today. And all looks good. I got 2855 on the standby of COM 1. I'm going up to 45, 1201 on the squawk. And here we are. All right, 1800 for 4,500. And once I feel high enough and good enough, I'll be turning straight to this USR 123.
4 Sierra Lima is over the bridge.
Swing 4 Sierra Lima, runway 29 right, clear touch go right, close traffic.
29 right, clear touch to go right, close traffic, 4 Sierra Lima.
All right, there's 2,000. There we go. No longer in his airspace. Boom. Flight plan, USR 123, direct, enter, switch to nav, throw that away, plane will turn left and head straight to Imperial Highway, which will be my first call for LA Special Flight Rules. And there we have it, 2,800 for 4,500, all is looking good. I am 5 to the south of Imperial Highway. I'll make a call just to give people a heads up of where I'm at, what I'm doing. And that's that. LA Special Flight Rules, White Cessna 3000 climbing 4,500, 5 to the south of Imperial Highway, heading northeastbound. LA Special Flight Rules. All right. And there we go. Plane is doing everything it should do. So at this point, with autopilot engaged, as always, I'm monitoring the system. That's my job. Everything looks good. Temperatures look good. All looks good. I'm just monitoring the system. Here we go. 35 for 45, 1,000 feet to go. There's that noise. All is good. 37 for 45. Beautiful out. Nice marine layer over the water, and it burns off over the ground, as expected. Here we go, 4 for 4,500. 500 feet to go. Make sure the plane level's off. When it comes to autopilot, it's really one of those trust but verify. Yes, it's supposed to level off here, but you want to make sure that it actually does its job. There we go, coming up, 4-5, 4-3, 4-4. All looks good. There we go, altitude hold mode, 4,500, nose is coming down, airspeed is increasing, and looks like that's doing its job. I'll release that right rudder. And we're good to go. I'll go to make a call here. I'll say we're 2 to the south of Imperial Highway. Again, you don't want to make a call every 10 seconds, but the more situational awareness you can offer both yourself and others in the area, the better. So here we go, 30 inches. (2,300 RPM). And we'll lean her out. There we go. I'm already here. I'll make a call here in a second over Imperial Highway. All looks good. I'm doing a 119 indicated. They don't want us going faster than a 130 indicated through the LA Special Flight Rules corridor. And here we go. LA Special Flight Rules, White Cessna is 4,500, heading northwestbound over Imperial Highway. LA Special Flight Rules. That's 1 of 4. Next call will be over LAX, the next one Bologna Creek, and then Santa Monica. And then I will be climbing and proceeding on course. I'll be getting in touch with Approach for some flight following all the way up to Trona. All the way up to Trona. Easy schmazzow. Let's see. All right. Nice thick layer down there. All is white, and it just ends here to the right of the airplane. Crazy how that works. And as you guys can see, this insane amount of upcoming TFRs, literally starting in 25 minutes. So I'm getting out of here just in time, which is good. Look at that. It's absolutely crazy. That is insane. Absolutely crazy. President is flying in. LA Special Flight Rules, White Cessna is 4,500, heading northwestbound over LAX, LA Special Flight Rules. And there we have it, all looks good. Temperatures look good, we'll close the cowl flaps, get some speed going. We'll see what that does to our speed. There we go. go a little leaner on the fuel. There's 23, so 29, 23, and 18. That looks good. And here we go, 130 ground speed, 131 climbing. Let's see how high we can get. Absolutely solid. 134, 135. Will we see 135? LA Special Flight Rules, White Cessna 4,500 over Bologna Creek, heading northwestbound. LA Special Flight Rules. There's 136. 136. Now I'll raise my ceiling to 9,500, which will be my on-course altitude. And I'll contact approach once I'm done with LA Special Flight Rules. All right, looks like my flaps are up, lights are off, and fuel selectors both. Cowl flaps are closed, temperatures look good. Again, a few knots over there, and then we'll open her back up for the climb. And all looks good. Everything is working as expected. So I hope that what you guys are picking up from just watching this is the fact that the autopilot's engaged does not mean that it's time to, turn into a passenger as the pilot. Yeah, you could look out the window. Yes, you could do stuff. You could take a drink. You're not, actively maintaining positive control in the airplane. But by no means does it mean that you get a break from being the pilot. You're always the pilot. And if you're not actively flying the airplane, you're making sure very closely that the system is actually working and functioning the way you anticipate it to and the way you think it is. And that takes up a lot of time and a lot of energy, and that's what being a pilot is. So just something to keep in mind. Here we go. LA Special Flight Rules, White Cessna 4,500 heading northwestbound over Santa Monica, last call, LA Special Flight Rules. There we go. Transponder, VFR. I'll be switching to approach.
I know they appear to be westbound, not Toxicom.
Okay, we'll look on the USC.
45 Zulu, contact them on tower 121.2. Let them know you look for that traffic.
You got it. Thank you for your help. Talk to you in a bit.
Thank you for your help. SoCal, good afternoon. Station Air 1215 Golf.
SoCal approach, bearing 55 Tango Sierras with you, man.
Station Air 1215 Golf.
Papa.
Yeah, we're approximately, we're just out of Special Flight Rules, 4,500 heading northwestbound, looking for a flight following up to Trona, Lima 72. We're a Cessna 206 flying Golf.
We're going to continue on your northwestbound heading.
Is that for 15 Golf to continue on the northwestbound heading?
For 1215 Golf, we're going to be continuing on that heading.
Negative. The on-course setting is approximately 020, and a direct would be fantastic for 15 Golf.
One 215 Golf, state type aircraft.
Cessna 206 flank Golf. And again, I'm not climbing because the LA class Bravo begins at 5,000 feet right above me here.
SoCal, bearing 55 Tango Sierras with you, 85 with Papa for Van Nuys.
For 1215 Golf, a reset transponder, squawk 4622, resume our navigation.
4622 ONAV, 1215 Golf, thanks. All right, highlight, here comes Lima 72, direct, enter, flight plan, nav, or it was already on GPS, my bad. So here we go. We're turning to Trona. There's my transponder.
2984 for November 55 Tango Sierra.
And I should be out of the Bravo here in a moment, so I'll begin my climb to 9,500. So here comes the power because I'm on autopilot.
Number 1215 Golf, stay altitude climbing to
9,500, 15 Golf. Here's the power. Actually, let's go ahead and do a cruise climb.
15 Golf, Roger, VFR climb 9,500 approved.
VFR 9,500 approved, 1215 Golf, thanks.
All right. Bravo,
flight level change,
contact off
and pick the nose up. We'll do 100 knots.
Say again, 25, Bravo, Jimmy.
Here comes the nose.
Bravo, Alpha Juliet, contact Los Angeles Center 125.8.
There we go. And I'll go 24 and 20.
Bravo, Juliet.
Southwest 2754, contact Los Angeles Center 125.8.
There's 20 gallons an hour coming up. And we're in flight level change. So I told the airplane, hey, maintain 100 knots, and I gave it an X amount of excess thrust, excess power. Specifically 30 inches of manifold pressure, 2,400 RPM, and 20 gallons an hour here on the fuel. The airplane, as we all know, there's no FADEC on this plane, there's no auto throttle, and so the only way for flight level change to ever control or maintain my speed, there we go, there's 5,000, I'm out of the Bravo, so that's no factor. The only way for the airplane to control my speed, the servos, is through pitch. So the way flight level change functions, again, as we always talk about, is I gave the airplane a given amount of excess power, told it to maintain 100, and I know that the byproduct of maintaining 100 with pitch at this given amount of power would have to be a climb, meaning we'd have to go uphill in order to not exceed and have our speed increase beyond 100 knots. I know that flight level change will do that. And that's what I always say, that in flight level change, your power controls your rate of climb, not your speed, because your speed is constant. If I gave it more power, my speed would stay 100, because flight level change does a really good job at locking that in, but my rate of climb would increase. If I reduced power, my speed would still stay the same, but my rate of climb would come down substantially. Again, that's just because the only way for the plane to maintain a speed
5 Tango Sierra, contact SoCal approach 120.4.
And here we go, we're on the way.
5 Tango Sierra, thank you.
All looks good. 30, 24, 20. Absolutely phenomenal. And he gave us own nav, direct destination. We'll make sure that this restricted is good for me to fly through. That'll be a nice little shortcut. Sometimes it's hot, so I have to go around Mojave there. And look at that. I managed to clear all of the TFRs and all that mess ahead of time, which is phenomenal.
Foxtrot 384, SoCal approach, Roger, Burbank, altimeter 2984.
And there we go, 6,000 feet, climbing 9,500. All looks good in the hood. Phenomenal. Everything's good to go. Let's check my terrain. That looks good, and looks like a tailwinds along the entire route today, so that's good stuff. Very cool. $30, 24, and 20.
Foxtrot 384, climb maintain flight level 190.
19,384.
Temperatures look good. You have a little bit of right crosswind, and 7 knots of right cross and 4 knots of tailwind.
SoCal afternoon, Southwest 2013, 1.4 for 4,000 on the Rose 2.
1.4 for 4,000.
Southwest 2013, SoCal departure radar contact, climb maintain to 13,000.
13,000, Southwest 2013.
All looks good, I'm happy. Let's talk about something that comes up on specifically the private pilot Checkride, and that is diversions. Diversion calculations, which sounds more involved than it actually is, but all a diversion is, what is a diversion? A diversion is a situation where I am on my way to a destination, to a certain place, and I change my mind, or I decide to land elsewhere, or something came up, weather came up, whatever it might be, and now it prevents me from continuing on to my destination. So I have to divert. So we're diverting, we're coming up with a new plan, a new destination. So on your private Checkride, you will be asked to execute a diversion. And all that means is that you'll be flying, most likely, most DPEs, the way they do it is you'll be taking off and you'll start out on your navlog that you prepared towards your destination. You'll probably fly only 2 or 3 of the first waypoints, just to confirm, oh yeah, we burned the similar amount of fuel that I calculated, and it took us a similar amount of time. But at the end of the 2 or 3 waypoints, the DPE, the examiner, will tell you, hey, let's divert to, I don't know where, give you an airport. And he'll want to see you execute that. So obviously in these glass cockpits, the easiest way to do it is nearest, so that you can just do direct enter. Very easy. But for the sake of this discussion, let's assume that my destination, right here, direct enter, which is Trona, is that diversion airport, which is the same thing. It draws a line between us and it gives us our distance, our bearing, it gives us our ground speed, our fuel over destination, our ETA, and our ETE. Now all these numbers are true if indeed you did a direct enter function where the destination airport is your next waypoint. Otherwise, if there's an actual flight plan going on and you look at these numbers, it would be inaccurate, because these numbers up here, the pink, the magenta, they show the information to your next waypoint. In our case, our next waypoint is my destination airport. So something to keep in mind. But as long as your diversion airport is actually your next waypoint, all this information should be accurate. Now, the questions that you'll be asked to answer when you conduct a diversion is, what's the distance between us and that new airport that we're going to? How long will it take us to get there? How much fuel will we burn between here and there? So the 2 first questions are really easy, and those are straightforward. The distance is right here, 105 miles, and the ETE is 52 minutes. So right off the bat, you could look at the DPE and say, yeah, it's right there. Easy. But people get hung up on answering the question of how much fuel am I going to burn between here and my destination. So in order to answer that question, I'm currently climbing, and if you guys know anything about what I think of the avionics in a climb, you should trust it. But let's assume I'm cruised out. Let's assume that these numbers are accurate. Here's the easiest way to go ahead and figure out how many gallons of fuel you're going to burn between here and the destination. And it goes like this: 1,000 to go. Every airplane, their display will be a little different. But in this plane specifically, if we go to system right here, we see gallons remaining. And up here we see FOD, fuel over destination. So check this out. The easiest way to figure out on the fly how much fuel you're going to burn between here and your destination airport, the new one that you just made up, and you could do this with any airport, is you come and you find your gallons remaining and you look. So you see 74, and then you take the FOD, the fuel over destination. So you do 74 minus FOD, right? Because we're going to arrive with 57, but we currently have 74. So 74 minus 57 is how much? So 74 minus 54 would be 20, plus 3, because it's 57, or minus 3. So we're looking at 17. So on the fly, you could answer the examiner and say, you know what? We're going to arrive at our destination with 17 gallons of fuel on, we're going to burn 17 gallons of fuel between here and our destination, because we currently have 74 and we're going to arrive with 57. Now, don't do this in a climb like I am right now, because obviously the computer snags this climb ground speed with this distance and it figures out gallons an hour you're going to arrive. So in reality, we will actually arrive at our destination with more than 57 gallons. But again, for the sake of answering this question, we were saying let's assume that we're cruised out and everything is leveled out and settled where these numbers are accurate. So I hope that makes sense. Direct enter on the nearest, or you could just do any nearest, whatever that might be. Look to see up here. Here's the distance, 100 miles. Here's the ETE, 50 minutes. And then for how much fuel you're going to burn, not a problem. I have 74 gallons left. I'm going to arrive with 57. I'm going to burn 17 gallons between here and my destination. You could do all that on the fly. Great information is provided with these glass cockpits. It's all a matter of knowing how to use it, what to look at, and so on and so forth. So I hope that makes sense when it comes to diversion calculations. It's all right here in front of you. Really easy. All right, there's 9,500. Everything looks good. There we go. There we are. solid. Direct, enter, enter. Let's see. Now these numbers will become more accurate. Now if I look at my flight plan, 41 minutes, I should be there at 1:33 local time. And there we have it.
Departure, silver speed, 75, passing 2,000 for 4,000 on the Harry Shore.
Idaho 5-4, standby. So speed 75, SoCal departure radar contact, climb maintain 13,000.
Up to 13, 13,000, silver speed 75.
Idaho 1-4, or I don't have your full call sign. Idaho calling SoCal approach. Burbank altimeter 2984, ident.
SoCal, entry 8331 Papa, level at 4,500.
Speed 75, turn left hand 320, vectors for climb.
Left turn 320, silver speed 75.
Silver speed. And there we are.
SoCal, entry 8331
All right, 9,500. We're looking at 40 minutes left to our flight to Toronto.
Above 3,000.
At or above 3,000, 31 Papa.
15 Golf contact, Joshua approach 124.55.
2455 on 5 Golf. And approach, good afternoon, station air 1215 Golf, level 9,500, direct Toronto.
Number 1215 Golf, Josh approach, palm down altimeter 2989er, welcome.
2989er, and is it restricted hot, or are we good to fly through it at 9,500?
Restricted area 2515 is active, yes, you're going to have to go around the west side near Mojave.
Roger that, Wilco, thanks, 1215 Golf. Okay, so
593 LA Center.
here we go,
has your
transition
request.
to
I'll go ahead
heading.
and take care of that for you. Contact LA Center 126.35,
now, flight plan,
2635. Have a
and
good
I'll come up to the
thanks for help.
waypoint right over here near Mojave, which is USR 120. So I'll do that, direct, enter, enter, and then I'll go out. You can see that. I'll switch back to nav, and now the plane will turn left, and this way I'm avoiding the restricted, so skirt right around it, northwestbound here around Mojave. So we tried. Sometimes it's not active, and we get direct, we get through the restricted. Other times it is active, and we have to go around. That's totally fine. And that's all a restricted airspace is. It is just a space that is closed off. Not visually, you can't see it, but it's an area that you have to stay clear of. You could fly through it if ATC clears you through it and says it's okay, but generally speaking, you want to stay out of it. And that's that, because there's some training going on and different activities in there. So that's pretty much it. What I want to do now for a little bit, a few minutes, is talk, apparently,
Southwest 333,
what I'm realizing
maintain 11,000.
is that new pilots who are showing up for their private check ride, they don't really know what to expect. And I'm saying they, I'm talking about myself too. When I walked into my private, I had no clue what to expect. It was my first check ride. So I figured, you know what? Let's go ahead and have a little conversation here and talk a little bit about what you can expect. I've gone through close to 10 check rides myself in my life, and let's discuss what can be expected on a check ride, and so on and so forth. Just a general idea. Obviously, the first thing I'll say about check rides is that every DPE, which stands for Designated Pilot Examiner, is different. Obviously, different people do things a little slightly different. But thankfully, we have a document called the ACS, which stands for Airman Certification Standards. And the ACS, this is how I define it to my students. If we think of an airplane, the airplane has a book called the POH, Pilot's Operating Handbook. And if we think of a clever way to explain what the POH is or what its purpose is for, the way I think of it is the POH is a document intended to put the pilot and the airplane on the same page. Essentially, it's just like the operating manual for your car, right? So it's a manual, it's a document which has information in it, and its purpose is in order to bring the pilot and plane sort of together, if you want to think of it that way. It's an odd way to think of it, but it sort of drives the point home. So if we think of a POH in that way, the question becomes, well, what is the purpose of the ACS? And just like with the POH's purpose is to bring the pilot and plane to be on the same page. The purpose of the ACS is to bring the pilot and the DPE, the designated pilot examiner, on the same page for the Checkride. And here's what I mean. The ACS has very specific items, very specific topics, very specific maneuvers and takeoffs and landings. Very specific stuff. Now, imagine that there were no document, and every DPE could show up to the Checkride and to their own accord, just do whatever they wanted to do. They could have you do steep turns, they could not. They could have you do steep turns at 45 degrees of bank. They could have you do steep turns at 60 degrees of bank. They could have you do whatever they want. You would see, you would understand, first of all, it would be really difficult to tailor the training environment in general in order to send people to DPEs who just will throw anything at you. So specifically from a flight training standpoint, not knowing what's coming, even to a little extent, makes it very difficult for training, because you could spend months doing everything and then the DPE shows up and he tells you, hey, he asks you a question that you never even heard of. Or what if a DPE showed up and in their opinion, the question they asked you is suited for a private pilot, but another DPE thinks that that question is suited for commercial. And so you see how with no standardized something, it would be a mess. So the FAA has this document called the ACS, and in there, it specifically specifies all the topics and the information that you as the pilot, the student pilot, will be tested on and asked about. Now, of course, humans being humans, every DPE might approach, maybe even interpret, and definitely ask the questions in a different way, because different people are different people. But at least what the ACS does is it allows the student to show up to the Checkride with the knowledge of, here's the takeoffs and landings I'll be expected to perform. Here are the tolerances for my steep turns, meaning there's no secrets, nothing, everything's on the table, right? If your tolerance is 45 degrees and you only go 30 degrees, or if your tolerance is 200 feet on altitude and you lost 400 feet, well, there's no secrets. So the ACS allows checkrides to be conducted in a much more transparent manner, which is a good thing. That said, let's talk a little bit about what you and your private pilot checkride can expect in terms of
Number 15 Golf, contact approach 133.65 TS.
3365, 15 Golf, thanks. And approach station air 1215 Golf, level 9,500.
Number 1215 Golf, dash approach, Checkride altimeter 2985.
2985, 1215 Golf. What you can expect on your private checkride. So, your checkride will begin. It's made up of both an oral and an in-flight test portion. So you'll start out on the ground in a classroom, and you'll spend about, on average, maybe 2 hours with the examiner, and the first 20, 30 minutes of it is really just about sorting all the eggs and getting your cards lined up in terms of making sure that the FAA's website has all their information, that your instructor has signed you off, that your logbook looks good, that you have the required cross-country or required aeronautical experience in general, your takeoffs and landings, your nighttime, your solo. So he or she will look through your logbook. And that's really just lining up the ducks in a row to make sure that everything is legal and has been taken care of, to now be able to execute the check ride in a manner where if you pass, all that's left to do is issue you the certificate, rather than have you pass and then they look back and they go, oh, you didn't even get this cross-country done, and now you're not even legal, and it doesn't count, and it's a whole headache. So the first 30 minutes of that is lining up the ducks, and then about an hour and a half or 2 hours will be just you and the examiner in a conversational format, and the examiner will just be asking you questions. Just to test your general knowledge of regulations, your airplane. And when I say airplane, your systems. You know, what happens, how many magnetos does your airplane have? What's the purpose of conducting a mag check in the run-up? What would you do if you saw the RPM drop for more than the allowable tolerance? Nothing too crazy. Obviously, each check ride is to its own level of knowledge. Maybe talk with you a lot about actually regulations. You know, are you allowed to charge for your services as a private pilot? Maybe talk with you a little bit about maybe some night definitions, right? What constitutes night? When could you log nighttime? Blah, 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 blah. So talk to you about that just in a conversational format. Look over your nav log, look at your weight balance, and so on and so forth. By the end of those 2 hours or so, if you passed and they're happy with your knowledge, at that point, you'll move on to the next stage, and that is you and the examiner will go in the airplane, will go fly. And so the way it works is the oral is first, and only if you pass the oral will you get to the airplane and go fly. Many people, unfortunately, don't pass the oral. I shouldn't say many, but some people don't pass the oral, and so they don't go fly. They have to redo the oral at another time, and then they will go fly. So the flying is sort of that thing that, think of it as a dessert, but you first have to eat dinner, and that's your oral. So once your oral is done, you'll be heading out to the airplane. Obviously, hopefully, before the check ride even began, you'll be making sure that the plane has good oil and fuel, and it has all its certificates in place, its airworthiness, everything's good to go, so you don't show up after your oral and find out that, you know, someone took the POH and it's not there, now you can't go fly. Or there's no fuel, which is fine, you could order, but it's more professional, and it shows better if you take care of all those things beforehand. At that point, some DPEs, actually for private, I would say most DPEs actually hang out with you during the walk around, might ask you some questions, you know, about the airplane. What's this antenna? What's that antenna? Tell me about your engine. You know, what's the minimum amount of oil you can see on your dipstick? General operating questions of your airplane. That's just what they're fishing for. They want to see whether or not you know, what's this thing, the pitot tube, whatever. What is it? You know, what does it do? What instruments does it provide information to? Again, every DPE will ask different questions, but generally speaking, this is the general thing that you can expect on your private check ride. Once you're done with that, plane checks, everything looks good, you'll get in the airplane, and guess what? This is the point where the students in their check ride get that big hit to their face in the sense of like, whoa, what just hit me? And that is one of the most difficult transitions you'll ever do as a pilot, is transition from being a student pilot to being PIC. And by PIC, I don't mean solo, and I don't mean making decisions with your instructor. But what I mean is being that person in the airplane who calls the shots. Now it's one thing to become a person in a plane who calls the shots. It's a whole other thing to have your first passenger with whom you will be calling the shots a designated pilot examiner. But unfortunately, that's how the system works. And so your first passenger, the first person that you will be calling the shots with in your plane will be the DPE, which could be a little weird, especially if you've just spent 6 months as the person who always looked to, hopefully your instructor made you make decisions, but as long as you had an instructor in the plane, when something big came down, you looked to them. And so now you're making that transition of becoming the pilot in command, becoming the one in the airplane who's making decisions, who's calling the shots, who's briefing the briefs, and who's deciding what's going to happen. And so I'll just give you a heads up that if you're thinking about your check ride from a mental standpoint,
2414 wingman.
anticipate things to feel a little weird when it comes to the airplane and being that pilot in command with the examiner. But that's what they're looking for. It could be a little awkward, but remember, that's what they do for a living. And they're looking to you to see that you're going to make decisions, to see that you're a safe pilot, to see that you're actually providing them with the briefing that is legally required of you as a pilot. And so at this point, you both will get in the airplane, and you'll give them a passenger briefing. And I'm sure you've practiced this with your instructor over training. And you'll give them a passenger briefing, and you'll tell them how to use the seat belts, and as if they're a passenger. And then once you're done with that, you'll say, do you have any questions? No questions. And then you'll get going. You'll do your thing. Most DPEs, as far as I know, are very quiet in the check ride because they're not allowed to teach. And so they'll just sit there and observe you.
George 09er.
And you'll do your thing. You'll get the plane started. And you'll taxi out. You'll do your run-up. They may or may not ask you questions in the run-up. My specific DP on my private loved asking a bunch of questions in the run-up, specific like when we were doing stuff, so like about the mag check and about the different systems of the airplane. But every DP is different. And then you'll head out to the runway. 90% of private check rides that I know of actually begin with some takeoffs and landings at the airport. So you might do a normal takeoff, normal landing, and then you might do a short field to a short field, and then you'll depart on your navlog. So you'll have your navlog paper out, and you'll fly the first few waypoints, so top of climb, and you'll be noting, yep, I reached my first waypoint at this amount of time, and I'm this amount or either ahead or behind what I anticipated. And then you will look at the fuel, and you'll say, okay, I burned 0.7 gallons on this leg, and I plan to burn 0.8, so I'm 0.1 ahead of my game. So, and you'll just confirm that, and that's what the navlog is. The navlog is really for you to confirm along your route of flight whether or not you're falling behind or staying ahead of the airplane in terms of fuel and time. Once you do that for a few waypoints, 90% of them will pretty much at that point have you divert and tell you, hey, let's divert to such and such airport. Now typically if it's around you can just hit the nearest button and then do direct enter and do your whole thing as you trained. They might ask you some questions about what are some things to consider, how would you know that the runway length is sufficient, whatever it might be. They'll ask you some questions and they'll say how much fuel will you burn, how long will it take you to get there, what heading will you turn to, whatever. After that, pretty much, once they're happy with your diversion, you won't land at that airport. You'll pretty much head out and do some maneuvers. So you'll do the steep turns, the stalls, the slow flight, emergency procedures. And once they're happy with all that, again, they're not looking for perfection. Remember, you're a private pilot, and that's sort of the first stage when it comes to flying airplanes. Now, unfortunately, from your perspective as the private pilot, let's see, temperatures look good. Let's close this. From your perspective as the private pilot, when you're getting your private, you don't yet know how little you know, because everything seems like a lot. The thing I learned most during instrument was how little I knew through private, or how little I knew getting out of private. But you don't really know how little you know until you learn more. So from your perspective, it's like, what do you mean this is a little? This is so much. It is a lot, but the expectations of a private pilot, as it should be, are not as high as some higher level certificates, which makes sense. So again, no one's looking for perfection. No one is looking for everything to be perfect. Everyone understands that you're new to this. Everyone understands that you're nervous. You're in a check ride. There's a DPE sitting next to you. Everyone understands all that. And all that is taken into account. We're human beings. We're not robots. That being said, all that is no excuse for not being safe, not briefing your passenger, not thinking,
you can continue your flight.
About the operation in a safe and as a pilot in command should. So while there's excuses to a lot of things, being new to all this is not an excuse to not being safe or being negligent and just sort of winging things. You don't want to do that, especially not on a check ride. So that's really what they're looking for. That's really what that's really what we're fishing for in terms of private pilots' proficiency and ability to fly an airplane. Even as an instructor, when I sign a student off to the Checkride, I'm not looking for perfection. If I looked for perfection, some people would never be signed off for the Checkride. I wasn't perfect on my Checkride, and few people are. In fact, probably no one is. So keep that in mind. It's really just about making the examiner walk away from your Checkride feeling like, you know what, this person is a person who is open to learn. This person is a person who wants to get better and better themselves and be a safe pilot and do their very best every day. That's what we're shooting for. And that's what it comes down to. At the end of the maneuvers, you'll be doing your ground refs. You'll do the emergency procedures. Once you're done with all that, you'll be heading back to the airport, and then you'll be doing a soft field landing. Again, I'm just talking in general. Each examiner might mix the stuff up and do your landings here, your landings there, but pretty much they're all, most check rides do it in a certain order that kind of makes sense and is streamlined. At that point, if you fail anything, you will know about it immediately in the flight. So if you don't hear that you failed, you should assume that you passed, because they have to tell you that something wasn't satisfactory if it's not. And then you'll obviously have the choice to continue or discontinue or terminate the check ride, but they'll have to tell you if you didn't pass. So if you don't hear anything, you pretty much pass the check ride, and then you get back to the airport. But again, remember, the check ride isn't over until the plane is shut down and secure, and you're back in the FBO, and you shook hands and you got your certificate. Don't say anything stupid when you're sitting in the room and the DPE is printing out the certificate. Again, remember, your goal is to make this person feel like you're a safe pilot. And so if you say anything that might make them think, you know, this person's a little, I don't know about giving them a certificate, don't do that. And that's about that. You walk back in, they'll print out a certificate, they'll sign it, it'll be a temporary one, you'll get your certificate, and then within, I believe it's 2 months or so, you'll get your plastic card mailed to your address. And that's about it, and you're a pilot. And immediately after your check ride, a minute later, you could get in the plane and take your friends and go flying, and the temporary certificate is your certificate. And that's all there is to it. Really, it's a cool experience. There's not much to it. It's probably, once you pass your check ride, it's probably going to be the most excited feeling you've experienced in either a long time or ever. It's really, really, really cool. I wish I could feel that feeling again with passing a check ride. But even the check rides that come after, they don't quite hit the mark as the first one does, because that first one is just like, if you think about becoming a private pilot, you just stepped into a world that is new, a brand new world, and it's like learning a new language, and you mastered this big thing and you passed the test. It's an amazing, amazing feeling. So I hope this is helpful. I hope it gives you a little bit of insight as to what the general look of your private pilot check ride will look like. And that's about that. Again, remember, everyone's different, but we have the ACS. Use the ACS. The ACS is a phenomenal tool, and if you ask me, your entire training should be familiarizing yourself with the ACS, tolerances, whatever it might be, because you don't want to show up to your check ride and not know how to fly a short field. So of course you'll train with your instructor and the whole thing, but you really want to make sure that you study the ACS and that you walk into the check ride knowing what's expected of you. And that too shows professionalism, right? You're not looking to the DPE to teach you stuff. So I hope this is helpful. And as always, if you have any questions, you feel free to send me an email, leave a comment in the comment section below. As always, these topics that I talk about are things that I get emails from people. So if you have any topic of your own that you want me to discuss, shoot me an email, and I do my best to cover them on my flights whenever I have the time to do so. So hope this is helpful, and keep moving on with training. Stick with it. I know it can get a little difficult. And eventually a day will come where you'll find yourself just like this in a plane flying over the desert, and either talking to a camera or not, but either way it's incredible. So I hope that was helpful, and we will begin our descent here in a moment to Trona. Here we go. Let's see. 18 minutes out. Should be on the ground at 1:30. 1:30.
79 Delta Sierra traffic, 1 o'clock, 10 miles opposite direction, 1,400. Indicated, types unknown, possible glider.
140. Here we go. Let's lower the floor. We'll go to 3,500 for now. Trona should be right behind that ridge over there. Let's see what VNAV says. I bet 17s are in use.
There's 17 radar service terminated, contact.
Let's do this. Procedure, select approach. Actually, I won't do that because it'll take this whole thing away and it'll send me through the restricted. So I'll keep this coming. But let's say I want to show up at 059, USR 059 at 5,000 feet. Let's see what VNAV is telling me to begin a descent. Let's go 500 feet a minute. Top of descent 2 minutes from now. All right, floor is lowered, and here comes VNAV. And 2 minutes from now, there's top of descent showed up right there. And if we look at the VSD, it should show us a nice little slide that will slide down right over there. So we're good with terrain, we're good with mountains, and there we have it. All right, we're on our way. Perfect. There we go. Yeah, and if you guys are training for certificates, private, commercial, or any different ratings, instrument rating, whatever it might be, let me know what...
Vertical track.
There he goes. We're a minute out. Let me know what you guys are working on. As always, I love hearing from you guys and connecting with everyone watching. As I said earlier, I just got done...
616 really off Josh Approach, over altimeter 2983.
I just got done this morning training, spending 2 days with a client who flew in from...
5 is hot. You can overfly Arch 524 at or above 5,000 though.
A client who flew in from Belgium to spend 2 days with me. So we did some great training in Southern California. We did a VFR day and an IFR day, so that was fun. So connecting with people who watch this channel and is one of my favorite things in the world. So if you have anything to ask or share, send me an email. And if you're ever in Southern California, let me know. And I'm based out of Torrance Airport in LA. So here we go. Floor is lowered. There's VPATH. And the nose is coming down. And we're sliding down the slide. And because I want to reach this waypoint at 5,000 feet, the banana, this green banana, which shows where you reach your altitude that you selected, should be hanging out right on top of that waypoint. So right now it's moving ahead of it a little bit as it's settling in and getting a better idea of what's going on. But eventually, as we settle into a nice descent, and VNAV figures that out, the banana should be hanging out right over here on top of USR 059. So I'll just let approach know that I'm descending. It's always nice. And approach 1215 Golf. We're beginning our descent to Trona.
015 Golf Red.
There we go. Nice little heads up. All right.
November 79 Delta
looks
Sierra,
good.
noisy on radio and radar. Radar service terminated. Talk VFR. Free change approved. And you're near Bishop. Try Oakland Center on 125.75 and fly following today.
Man, the AC feels good. Wow. go, we'll add some power. All looks good. All right.
Adjust your departure, Brazilian 460, Papa Alpha, 3,200, climbing 14,500 on top.
November 460 Papa Alpha, Joshua, approach, local metals altimeters 2983, verify parking 4645.
Full 6, full 5.
4645, Brazilian 460, Papa Alpha.
Zero Papa operator contact T-Cell, trying to like airport, sequential 3 is all before reaching VFR on top, maintain VFR on top is unable to advise.
Here's Pacha 3 all altitude, Brazilian 460, Papa.
Before reaching VFR on top, stay.
There's a plane here, my altitude.
Unable to advise.
We're on top, Brazilian 460, Papa Alpha.
I bet it's a fighter jet. Yeah, it's a fighter jet. All right, 7,600 for 3,500. And here we go. All looks good. All right, descent checklist. Cowl flaps are closed.
November 24 Tango Whiskey, Joshua approach over the
Lights are on. Flaps are currently 0. Fuel selector is both. And we'll get the prop and mixture full forward here in a little bit. And all looks good. Not too bumpy, but we're good. We're under our maneuvering speed, so if it comes at us out of nowhere, there we are.
Empire 21 flight, traffic beneath you 7,000, climbing Brasilia, southwestbound. November 0 Papa Alpha, traffic above the F-18's orbiting. Currently 180, has to go a little lower though.
Roger, looking for Brazilian 460, Papa Alpha.
0 Papa Alpha. Zero Papa Alpha. Oh, here's something cool to talk about. Let's talk about the airspeed indicator. Let's talk about how the airspeed indicator functions. If you're getting your instrument, you might be asked about a little more in-depth, the instruments in the airplane and how they work. So, as we know, the pitot-static system, the pitot tube provides information only to the airspeed indicator, and then the static system provides indications or information to the airspeed, the altimeter, and the vertical speed indicator. So the way the airspeed indicator works, we'll talk about the VSI and altimeter some other time, but the way the airspeed indicator works is the airspeed, or this needle, really moves to the right clockwise and generates an indication with the numbers that we wrote down on the face of it. The more ram air pressure that goes in through the pitot tube and inflates the aneroid wafers inside, the more ram air pressure, the more that balloon inflates, the higher the indication. So it's a function of air molecules ramming through our pitot tube, and that's what indicated airspeed is. And that's also why we fly with indicated airspeed, because when we fly at a high density altitude airport, the air molecules are further apart. But as long as I maintain my constant same final approach speed that I always do, My true
409er, say again.
My true speed is way high in order to keep ramming into those molecules at 8,000 feet.
409er, roger.
But my indicator is the same, so the amount of energy on the airplane is the same with the indicator airspeed. And that's why we fly with indicator, because it's the closest speed that we can get to resemble the amount of energy that we're carrying. Because true airspeed and all those stuff, they won't resemble that. That changes all the time. It's not constant. So the way the airspeed indicator works is we want to know how much air molecules are ramming through the pitot tube. Now here's the problem with static pressure, or ambient pressure. Ambient pressure exists everywhere, and it makes itself through any hole and any place it can go through. So guess what types of pressure enter the pitot tube? Ram and static. So we have a problem. We have both ram and static pressure inflating, static being atmospheric pressure, inflating that balloon, generating an airspeed. But it's not 100% accurate because we don't care about the static. I only care how fast I'm moving forward, hitting those air molecules. I don't care about the amount that the atmospheric pressure is inflating that balloon as well. So we have a problem. We have static plus ram, but we only want the ram. We don't want the static. So the way we get rid of the static and cancel the static out is actually in the outer casing on the aneroid wafers inside the instrument. We send static pressure as well. So we have aneroid wafers, and then we have the outside the aneroid wafers inside this instrument. So we have inside the aneroid wafers, we have ram plus static pressure. Outside of the aneroid wafers, we have static pressure. Outside of the aneroid wafers, we have static pressure. And so if you think about it, we have ram plus static battling it out with static. So the static cancels the static out because we have two same statics battling it out. So they cancel each other out.
5 Golf, no traffic between you and Trona. Radar service terminates, 5 VFR, frequency change approved. Have a good day.
VFR, thanks for your help. 125 Golf. And so we have ram plus static. We have ram plus static battling it out with static. So the statics cancel each other out, and then we're left with only ram pressure, ram air pressure, and that is the airspeed indicator. Because if we didn't have that static on the outside of the outer casing, canceling the static inside the aneroid wafers out, it would be inaccurate because it would also include the atmospheric pressure being part of that pressure which generates the indication, and that wouldn't be 100% true. All I care about is how fast am I interacting with those air molecules moving forward. And so we have, again, ram plus static, battling it out with static on the outside of the aneroid wafers. The two statics cancel each other out, and we're left with only ram air pressure. And that's a general, tiny intro as to how the airspeed indicator operates and functions. So I hope that makes sense. Here we go. A little bumpy as we make our way down the hill. Let's sync to heading mode. And then what we'll do is I'll go ahead and load procedure, select approach, and I'll do 17, and I'll do vectors, and then I'll go activate OK. That gives me great situational awareness right over here. And what I'll do is I'll do left traffic because it's left traffic here 17. So I'll add power. I'll even lower my floor here a little more. I'll go to 2,700 feet, and I'll go vertical speed minus 500. And I'll be turning left even right now, because I'm done with the restricted here, so that won't be a factor. And here comes the descent. All is good in the hood. There we go, and I am 10 to the south. Toronto traffic, white Cessna is 10 to the south, 5,000 feet descending, make left traffic 17, full stop, Toronto. And there we have it. Welcome to the deep desert. Got the airport in sight. And looking at the winds, 17 is definitely favored. And there's probably a Hornet or something inside of the restricted, 7,700 feet above me. Yep, Nova Coom. bumpy.
Arterial traffic jump operations over the field, 14,000 feet below, jumping away in 2 minutes, do not overfly the field.
Look below, they say. All right, we'll do that. There's the airport right in front of me. And it looks like 17 is definitely favored.
Fair to drop, try to. All right, my shutdown on the fuel rack. We'll do also keep eyes out. I got 2, now 3 hang gliders messing around. They're on one's on the other side of the sand butt. Seen one messing around the lake.
Hang gliders.
So far, no, but they're tracking closer. Thank you, appreciate it.
All right. There we go. Make left traffic. There's the runway. Traffic, white Cessna is 5 to the south. Make left traffic, 17, full stop, Trona. There we go. Here's Trona, right here, Trona, California. All right, 3,400. It is hot here. Wow. It sure is hot. All right, here comes the prop. $2,700 feet coming up, 300 feet to go. There's the runway.
Green light, shine to.
I got 9 knots of tail, so that's good. I'll have 9 knots on the head. We'll see what happens when I get a little lower. 2,700 feet coming up, 100 to go. There we go. Toronto traffic, white Cessna is left to downwind of runway 17, full stop, Toronto. There we are. There's the runway. Let's actually do a short approach. All right. All right, you guys, thanks for joining, coming along. And I hope to see you with me again on the next one. All right, there we go. Short approach. There's the runway. All right, flaps 20. Toronto traffic, white Cessna, making a short approach, runway 17, full stop, Toronto. All right, here we go. Coordination, coordination, coordination is key. Key, 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 key. Coordination is key. Just all the way down. All the way down the numbers, just like this. There we are. Welcome to Toronto. And we're done. Nose off the ground. Or pressure off the nose wheel. All right. Welcome to Toronto. You'll call the way back, and it is hot here, 36 degrees Celsius. All right, flaps come up. All right, here we go. Okay, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Welcome to the desert. 37 degrees. Holy moly. Gotta turn around. There we go. There we are. All right, lights come off. Boom, boom, flaps are up. All right, you guys, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. And as always, shoot me an email if you have any questions, comments, or if you're ever in the Los Angeles area. All right, here we go.